animated series, Robots in Disguise, playing the scholarly Predacon General, Skybite. With a career spanning over 4 decades, his resume includes such franchises as Naruto, Digimon, and Ghost in the Shell. A resident of New York, Peter now finds himself as a facilitator of comedy, acting, and improvisation workshops, splitting most of his time between Indianapolis, Indiana, and London. People of Earth, please put your hands together for the singing shark himself, Peter Spellos.
Familiar, I think, for some reason. I think I was on the stage all last night. How y'all doing? Oh, that was pathetic. How y'all doing?
Yay!
I have energy, you have energy, I'm sure you. All right. Hi, Leanne.
Hi.
Hi, darling.
Have a microphone.
Oh, thank you. The chair come with a martini?
No, I'm afraid not.
Yeah, I'll have to wait an hour.
Hour and a half, I think.
Okay. Pose to the camera, huh? And with the lenses are at all time.
We want to see that on Instagram or, Twitter or something. Oh, you're videoing? Excellent, right.
It's okay.
Okay, so who here was at the Improvicons last night?
Yeah!
I know you were. You were in it. So, obviously, improv is something that you love to do. How did you get started in improv?
And for those who weren't at the panel this morning, I'll try and make the abridged version of this. I was a young actor in New York, had broken up with a girlfriend, and was like, I turned to the trade papers, which in New York at that time were backstage in show business, and that's where all the auditions were. I'd done improv in high school. I saw an ad for an improv class. I said, you know what, I need something new in my life. So I went down there, I auditioned, they added me on the spot. I did 2 classes, and 2 weeks later, I was a member of the company. Not only a member of the company, I was performing on the regular shows Friday and Saturday night. It was the kind of thing where, and I know you've either had this experience yet, or you will have this experience yet. When you find something, a career, a moment, a person, something that fits you like a sweater, and you know you're home. Well, at 23, I knew that to me, that was the keys of the kingdom. I could create freely, be the weirdo that I am, and still learn to make people laugh. And here's the thing about making people laugh I learned early on. I wasn't pretty, like I am now. I wasn't athletic. But if you made the girls laugh, ooh boy. So I've spent most of my life making you laugh, because I have actually 3 future ex-wives I've picked out in here right now.
As what does it mean?
Well, you have equal opportunity. There are many countries that are here.
Is one of them me?
2 of them are you.
Hey. So why teaching? Why did you start teaching improv?
I actually was given that about a year into the company. The director, I had directed a little bit in college, said, would you mind directing the young class? I said, oh, absolutely. And that, over the years, it actually has become more rewarding for me than anything else. I've probably directed 50 shows, in New York, Los Angeles, off-Broadway, and there's something about an actor has a part. You have to know what part of the story you are, the narrative. That you get a small part of the script, you usually don't know what else is in it, and you got to deliver how you move the narrative. Well, the director kind of has that opportunity to see the whole picture, and it's more almost like a puppeteer in the sense where you have to kind of move that around. Teaching was just a natural, again, it's without trying to be egotistical, you have gifts, you know that it's right for you, and I began to teach, and it just kind of snowballed, and when I took over a comedy club in New York City in 1984 called Who's On First, I knew that I wanted to put an improv company together from all my training. So I asked about 20 stand-up comics who had never done improv before to join me in this insane venture that if you gave me 6 weeks, I could put you together and put an improv company. And that was my first improv company at my nightclub called Who's On First in New York City. Within 3 months, they heard of me at the comic strip, which you guys probably might know from television and stuff, and would you come and be my improv director? And I started to have that career. Then when I moved to California, I was in theater companies. Again, we talked about at the panel that kind of theater is my really background. What you saw last night is really who I am, as opposed to the voice actor. That's where I made my bones on stage and growing up with that. And it just got more and more. And the better the actor I became, the more I lived, the more I realized I wanted to teach. And I had some great, great teachers that pushed me and loved me and then pushed me again, because they knew that there was something in there that wanted to get out. And once I found that, once again, keys to the kingdom. And I haven't stopped teaching in close to 35 years. New York, Los Angeles, Indiana for the last 4 years. And then the wackos you saw last night would kind of approached me when, want to teach a class. And it turned into, I got to say something about the Improvicons and how proud I am of them. We did 6 rehearsals over 3 years, twice a year. That's on, these were mostly non-performers. And they did an amazing job. I swear to God, I felt like the father of the bride this morning. The wedding was over, thankfully. I didn't have to, lay out any money here for the bride and groom. And now he was your problem over there, But Joe, I see you down front there, and I couldn't be any prouder than him and all the people that I work with. It is so rewarding being a mentor. And I taught college, by the way. So I have 50-year-old men and women who still call me sensei. And that is the most honored word I've ever been called. And I have been called a lot of names, I promise you this. But sensei is the one I take to heart and respect more than anything else. You kind of saw it on my shirt, and it's a position of honor for me. So at this point in my life, aside from a couple of conventions, and I'm going to be directing a show in Indiana in November, I wouldn't do anything else but mentor. I've had my share. I have. I'm a pensioner back east. I have also Social Security, which is kind of the government money. You're old, we're going to give you money now. It's the kind of thing how that works. I wouldn't be doing anything else than what I'm doing. I got to get people who are not sure if they want to do this, and I got to look them in the eye and go, do you want this? Because it's a lot of work. Because if it's a lot of work and you want this, welcome to your life. I've given my life over to this. I'm 65 doing what I was doing when I was 16. And I assure you, if you come up to me at the bar tonight, I'll tell you all the weird jobs that I've had doing this over the years. But right now, I love my life.
Doing a convention for the first time in 5 years, so it must be really overwhelming being back here.
I'll tell you what's overwhelming, how I got here. When I did the first one in 2014, it was a revelation. I left California in 2012 with a prescription painkiller dependency. I was on 480 milligrams of morphine a day. I literally lost a year of my life. And I knew that when my mom got sick, I would come back home and take care of her and get rid of that, and I was able to kick that in about 30 days, believe it or not, with terrible withdrawal, but that's another story I won't save till later. But they chased me down. They wanted me to come to the 2013 convention, and I said, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. I wasn't ready to come back out and be amongst the public, but when they chased me down the next year and said, would you do it? I said, absolutely. And it was I've said it to David all weekend, it was the beginning of my renaissance. I had really come back again. And AA was finishing and TF Nation was going to take over, and they never bring guests out back to back, so they said, no, we can't bring Peter out. They crowdfunded me to the event. $1,500 in 45 minutes. They raised money because they wanted me at the last event. So, riding on the backs of you guys to get here. And then ultimately with TF Nation, we would always joke, I'm going to be ready whenever you call, Billy, because, that's really how this is going to work. And I kept about 2 years ago, I dropped a seed as we were doing these classes in London, which hit me about the classes in a second. I said to him, if and when you bring me back, I would absolutely put an improv show together for you. And he remembered that scene, and about a year ago, when I was teaching the class, he showed up in London, which means one of two things. A mob hit was going to go down, and that was at the end of my life right there. Or he asked me would I come do it in 2019. So I said, in a heartbeat. So to come back to this, where this began in the Birmingham Hilton for me, 2019, and to bring my theater, is that me? I didn't know, maybe that was something that was happening there. To bring my theatrical children, my mishpucha, you know, my kindles, back into this, and to stand on that stage, this stage, and sitting there like a proud father last night, I swear to God, if that just blew up, and that would be the way to go. There he goes, God love him, skylights all over the ceiling now. It's an amazing experience when you can work with such talented, creative souls, that names that most of the world don't know, but have changed my life immeasurably. And Joe and you and the rest of the guys, I'll never be able to thank you enough. Bastards, all of you.
Kids, man.
Oh.
Did one over there?
Right there.
Yeah.
It's a French word, don't worry about it. Oh, the French girls are yelling at me now, I love this. So we've been teaching in London every year. And I'm not coming back until next April because my children in Indianapolis are going, you're staying with us the next 6 months no matter what happens. Okay, I'll do that. Yeah, I know. So everybody complained that I'm a New Yorker, so when they say London's expensive, I go, you have no idea. But they would whine, when are you going to come to the Midlands? When are you going to come to the Midlands? So my April 2020 class will be in Manchester, near Liverpool, because as a 10-year-old kid when the Beatles appeared on WABC radio, I knew I wanted to go to Liverpool. I wanted to stand in front of the cavern, which is not the real cavern, it's the new cavern, because it says the cavern on it, so I'm very happy. Strawberry Fields, Penny Lane. I want to take the ferry across the Mersey. I'm such a nerd, it's amazing. But I figured, 65, tick-tock, let's visit a couple places I haven't been to yet. So, and the question a lot of people have asked me, how do I get in on this? There is first of all, you got to friend me on Facebook. No, you really do.
He posts a lot.
I'm like a 14-year-old girl. I post so much on social media. But if you friend me on Facebook, I'll add you to our London page, which we used to call the TF Nation page, and that will be all the details. It just is the easiest way for me to speak to 800 people at the same time, and then all the information will be there. You sign up, you send me lots of money, and you throw confetti at me, and the life is very good over there. But I will be out there in the spring. Once I set my dates for 2020, because I do a big convention in Indiana, once I figure out what my teaching dates will be, we'll know the exact weekend. I always figure out when your Easter is, when the bank holidays are, because I know...
How do you figure out when Easter is? Nobody can figure that out.
I just try and make it a weekend where people go, well, I don't have anything to do, I'll go see Peter. So if you want to be a part of this, if you want to just play, now there's no guarantees that I'm going to be back here doing improv. 2022 is when I thought. I'm so trying
Billy, have you got that?
Go right there. No, Billy knows, we talked last night. If they have me back, and I hope they do, it will be the return of the Improvicons. Of course, what Billy doesn't know, 3 years later when he brings me back in again, it's Improvicon's Revenge. So I have the trilogy all figured out right now for what I want to do.
So does it work? People are saying, come to the Midlands, come to the Midlands. It clearly worked. So come to the north, come to the north, come to the north.
You just spent 5 days with me going, I don't know who he is, he's scary. So, yeah, David, the grace of Grace and David Paul Wallace had me up to their home in Newcastle for 5 days. And all I wanted to do was sit by the sea and talk to Leanne and let her know that I'm absolutely insane. And all she has to do is ask one question and I'll talk for 3 hours, how that works.
Yeah, I felt a lot easier about this after that.
I do what I can to help.
I sat and talked to you in a pub for 6 hours. I didn't get a word in edgeways.
And you're... Oh, Wallace, now he's always in the room. Oh, well, my Geordie doppelganger is here. Excellent.
Okay, so we'll move on from improv and go a little bit further on in your life. You've done TV, you've done film. Which do you prefer?
Which child do you like more? You know...
The only one I've got.
It's a tough question. I like whatever I'm doing. It sounds like a wimpy answer, but the more you can do, the more they can hire you for. Ultimately, TV and film are easy because they film especially film. You know, I've done a lot of B movies. Roger Corman is a very famous B movie director, and we would shoot 70, 80, 90 setups a day, 18 pages of dialogue. You go on a major motion picture, they're going, wow, 2 3/4 pages today. It's a hurry up and wait business, so you almost can't make a living, only a fortune doing that. TV's great because you do the show in front of a live audience, so that I love. It was more like theater than anything else. And then there's Skylight, and then I walked into a studio that knew me from a lot of different things, and it was everybody in that room were buddies, were bros. They had been doing this for a while, and I fell into it through the motion picture business with a friend of mine, Kevin Schoen, who was doing the voice of Timon when Nathan Lane didn't feel like working that day. And again, here I am. You know, if you work hard at your craft, the chef gets hired not for the one dish he does, but because he can do a variety of dishes. So I try and be good at as many things as I possibly can. But the one thing that allows me to be good or great at everything is improvisation. Because I'm fearless. If it bombs, I'll move on to the next thing. I'm not afraid of it. Oh my God, I make them laugh in that moment. When I used to do stand-up, we had a line in the nightclub. Someone would be in the front row and have this kind of face on, and I would go, just because you're not laughing, sir, doesn't mean that joke wasn't funny, okay? You know, and that's what it is. You got to be confident in yourself, and you just do it. And if you're charming and beautiful like I am, it usually works after a while.
Okay then.
They didn't agree on that point very well. I'm concerned about that.
So, bearing in mind who you're on stage with, okay, who has been your favourite person to ever work with?
Danny DeVito.
Oh, damn.
Hands down. He's incredible. He's exactly like you see him. I mean, not an iota difference. I did a film called Hoffa in the early 90s for Danny. It was a huge epic about Jimmy Hoffa, who started the Teamsters Union, and it was 153 principal roles. That means 153 different people spoke in the film. Oh, that better be pizza. See, improv. It just happens naturally. Well, I walked in the room, and usually there's a desk that the producers and writers and directors want to put between the two of you, because wear this, you're that. Danny was on the couch. I walked in and said, "Hey, Pete, it's Danny." It's like, wow, hi, Danny, it's me. You know, and he'd been in a show in the States called Taxi, and that was his first show that with Judd Hirsch and Christopher Lloyd and Andy Kaufman. If you don't know the show Taxi, and if you love Danny DeVito, you got to do it. So Danny auditioned me in September. I didn't shoot till the end of November. He has 153 principals in the role, and I walk on the set and he goes, "Pete, how the hell are you? There we go, good to see you again. You look good in the tuxedo, keep shooting." And it was just a wonderful moment. About 2 weeks before the cast and crew screening. So there's the red carpet screening you see on television for these movies, but a few days before there's the cast and crew screening, where the non-stars of the film are invited, and the entire crew and their wives. And I got a call one day. Now, you're not going to understand what this is, on an answering machine. I'll explain what that is later on. I had to explain to the first group what a payphone was, so there we go. And I get a message on my phone and say, "Hey, Pete, it's Danny, give me a call." And I thought, oh, one of my moron friends. I'm going to have to kill somebody. And I called, and it was Danny. And he said, listen, Pete, I got to tell you, you were such a terrific actor. It was really wonderful working with you. But the film is running really, really long. And I got to apologize. There's a director calling me at home going, I had to cut you out of the film. But you're such a big part of it. And what you did with Jack Nicholson, name dropper, was terrific. You're in here, Barry Shaw, that was for you. Was terrific. You're coming to the cast and crew screening, of course. Of course. So it was an amazing evening. I wasn't in the film, but I was okay because I was in the family there. But as the credits rolled, my name was in the credits. He's an actor's actor. He liked what I did so much. I get residual checks to this day for a movie I never appeared in. That's an actor, yeah. That's an actor taking care of other actors. So guess what? When this actor started directing, I take care of my actors because I learned that lesson from Danny DeVito.
Okay, so on the flip side, who's the worst person you've ever worked with?
David Paul Wallace, hands down. A pain in my universe. I love you, man.
Taking applause anywhere I can get it.
Yeah. Welcome to my world, son. I'm not name disparaging.
That's fine.
Except
That was literally just a setup for that joke.
There was a couple people who spent my whole life trying to demystify this industry for young students. But some people and some actors want to go, I'm here and you're here. And I had a couple of those. And you know what? You just go, bite me. I'm going to do my work. And the important people will see my work. Ed O'Neill was a borderline person like that. I did an episode of Married with Children where I played Cousin Elmo, who had an ankle bracelet on, so he was only able to drive 2 miles in a circle. You know, he couldn't go anyplace else. And in television, you do a 4 o'clock show and a 7 o'clock taping. And what you usually see on TV, if there are great shots in the early show, is an amalgam of both. Both have a studio audience. And Ed hadn't said a bloody word to me the entire time. I'm doing a scene with Katie and Amanda. I'm driving the cab. It's a really funny scene. Everything is Googleable in this world. In between, you get a note session. So they tweak the one show to the other. I'm standing at craft service. Craft service is the snack table for actors. And we're all the, look, red twisters and Pop-Tarts. Excellent. There's my dinner right over there. And Ed O'Neill walks by and looks at me and goes, you're funny. Welcome to the family. And it was like, oh, the king of the show anointed me in that moment, which is really all I wanted to do, which was my work. And he noticed, and he was a star, and he came down to let me know he liked what I was doing on his show. So do your work, do the work, and don't worry about anything else. You have artists out there, don't edit as you're creating. Because that's the voice of other people. That's other people's voice in your head telling you you can't do it. Do it. Do it. Look them in the eye and go, I'm going to continue to do it. And you know what? People will notice. I've been given such amazing gifts in the last 2 days of pictures of Skybite. You know, one day I'm going to have a shrine to me in my house. All the pictures that you folks have given me. There's 2 kids. Stephen, are you in here? No, you are. There you are. Stand up, son. And Isabel, stand up. Those are the 2 best pictures I got all day. Stand up. Oh no, stand up. I'm going to teach you about applause. You stand as long as you're applauding. You know what? You know why I have hope for these 2 children? I asked them to sign it. And they said, we already did. I won't forget you guys. I promise. That'll happen. That's the thing. I'm not going to mumble anymore. You go.
Okay, so I've sat in the pub with you quite a lot this week.
Don't tell them that.
Okay, I've sat,
I was having ice cream, I swear.
I've sat at a cafe with you quite a lot this week. We'll go with that. And then obviously I've done a few panels with you already, and you've spoken a lot about finding the truth in a character. But I want to ask you, what's your truth? Sorry if I stopped you.
No, it didn't stop me. I want to word it correctly. My truth is, I'm flawed. I'm not perfect. I'm a 6'2", pock-bark, 300-pound man that Hollywood said probably wouldn't work. And if you IMDb me, that page goes on for days. I just owned who I was. No matter what anybody said, and I fell victim to, I guess I stink. Everybody's, says I shouldn't do this. But my truth is, I'm a flawed human being. And the minute I let my humanity out, the minute I went public with my drug addiction, the minute I looked at people and said, I'm just a guy. I'm a funny guy, but I'm just a guy. People are attracted to humanity. Yeah, no, you can. In this day and age, in this country, in my country, with the political climate, I like that humanity got a round of applause more than anything else over here. But the truth is, whatever the truth is that day, the camera sees everything. And instead of actors want to reach in and pull the juice out of you and show you, no. Sit back, open your heart, let the person into the scene show vulnerability. That's my truth. I am willing to go up on the stage and be vulnerable and not BS you. I cleaned that up. And just tell you exactly who I am and how I feel. If that's enough for you, terrific. If it's not enough for you, there's doors on either side of the room right over here, and no one's going to lose sleep over it. You want to know who your friends are? Get sick. Because when I got real sick, those who I thought would be there were nowhere near, and those who I had no clue would help me in my time of trouble showed up, and they went, of course we'll be there for you. I know one thing from meeting you all and doing all the stuff you all, my friends in Indiana will be so happy that I used that word. I know this. You never know who you touch. It doesn't have to be show business with people you meet, the friends, the people that work. Except when I'm in England with you folks, I seem to meet all the people I touched. And it's starting again. You have changed my life forever. You really have. I hate you.
I'm sorry.
At some point, we want these fine folks to ask questions, because every question you ask me, I cry.
Okay, I've got one that is not going to make you cry, but I'm going to ask you this, and I'm going to turn it over to the audience. I want to challenge you. Okay.
Bring it on, sister.
You are the master of improv. Okay? Yeah. Okay. And I know that when you played Skybite, the producers wrote in your script.
Skybite sings.
Skybite sings.
Who's the biggest shark around? Who's the greatest shark in town? Skybite, it's me!
Yeah! That's not the challenge.
Yeah, but they wanted to hear it. It's what they want, rule number one.
Okay, which is great, but I want to challenge you
You're right.
to release a second single.
Ooh, look, backup singers. I'll tell you what, I'm going to make it one better. I will write a haiku, I will write a couple of haikus tonight and post them online about this. I'm good on the page with haikus, so I'm not stalling, but I will write a couple of haikus.
He's totally stalling.
No, I'm not. Your alcohol level just went, I'm not buying you. But,
couldn't reach my challenge, Peter. Couldn't reach my challenge. I'm expecting.
I've stole the challenge. I've kinged me. You know what I mean? I promise, I will write you stuff later on. So,
okay, well, I will hold you to that. And I will call you out on social media.
You won't be the first woman who said actually those exact same words before.
Okay, should we turn it over to the audience?
Shall we?
Yes.
Why not?
Who's got the microphones? Who's my mic runners? Ah, in the back, right.
Oh, fine. Now there's runners. When I needed you last night, I didn't have any runners. And by the way, I got 3/4 of the way around the room and went, shut down the cane! You know, and I still got to the stage on time.
So, who's got questions? I want to see a show of hands. One.
Is he-
I've got one person.
Oh no, you better start asking me. It's a young man right over there first.
Yeah.
Wait, did you? I just want to, is it a... Now, the next question I want all the way in the other end of the room, so she has to run a lot going back and forth.
It's okay, there's one there too.
As Skyboy,
Yes?
who do you hate the most in Transformers? I forgot what it's called.
All right,
Transformers in disguise.
Yeah.
Who do I hate the most?
Yeah.
There's only one. David Paul Wallace. That's the only one I really
He's
hate.
missed the joke, he's not even here.
It doesn't matter, they didn't miss the joke. And these are my fans over here. Who's next?
Over there.
Wait. Yes.
Out of Scarlet, you mentioned that you did have something set out that he sings, but otherwise, how much of it do you have to work out? Was it improvised of him yourself?
Nothing. I mean, what would happen is it's a tiny community, the voiceover community. There's only 8 people in show business and 5 of us know each other, okay? And they would write for me. I knew all these guys. We all had drinks together. We all played poker together. So the weirder I got with the voice, and by the way, the voice for me was a creation of Tom Waits as if he married Dr. Smith from Lost in Space. And that was sort of the basis for that. And the weirder I was reading my lines and the funnier it was in the booth, the weirder they would write the translations. So every time I was weird, they would write longer monologues for me, longer and longer, until they wanted to get even with me. And that last page said, Skybite sings. And I actually had 3 of them killed, by the way, but don't tell them.
Okay, any more questions? Oh, over there.
There better be more.
I know,
Otherwise I have to sing it.
There's 20 minutes left.
Hi!
What was your favourite Skybite moment working through RID? My favourite was when you said, Spellos, I'm not a jellyfish.
I'll tell you something. I've never seen the episodes but one. They don't show in the United States. And certainly they don't. There's something with whoever owns the rights to it. So the only episode I ever saw was Skybite Saves the Day. And by the way, that was the only episode that never aired in the States. Because of the World Trade Towers falling down. Because it was months, it was supposed to air in November 2001, and it was months after the tragedy. And they would not air, it never aired in America. But it was on YouTube, which is sort of like the demonic world of things. And I got to see it, and that was the moment where you go, I'm good, you know? It was fun, so my favorite moment was the fact that I actually got to see one of the things I did 28 years ago. Oh my God. No, 18 years ago. Oh, that feels much better now.
18 years ago would have been 2001.
Yeah. Right, I did the math. I figured it out. You know.
Yeah, but you said 19.
Thank you, Rachel Riley, okay?
I'll shut
I
up.
thought I'd get a bigger laugh on a Brit TV reference. Jeez.
They probably remember Carol Vorderman.
I'm going to answer that question over there.
Who's the voice actor that you respect most or like the most? Whose work do you enjoy listening to?
I call Michael McConaughey my sensei. Because he taught me, BotCon 2002 was my first immersion in you nut jobs. And he taught me a lot about how to deal with the public, how to deal with actors who were, shall we say, and I can't say those words, but I'll tell you what they are later on. And it was his birthday last week, and I wrote Happy Birthday, Sensei, because you can't be one unless you have one. And there's so many talented people, from Kevin Schoen, who brought me into all of this, to Cam Clark, who I worked with on stuff, to, you know what, I do have another favorite one. Townsend Coleman. I'm in Townsend here in 2014, and we were doing this, at that time we were doing a signing for the staff on a Friday night. We, the staff, had first dibs at our carpal tunnel syndrome. And every time there was a break, you and I went to talk and go, God, we know all the same people and have lived a similar path to a certain extent. And literally, we're tearing up and crying with each other. Townsend and I have remained good friends. I was hosting a podcast with a friend of mine a couple of years ago, and I interviewed Townsend, and he wrote me, he goes, Buster, have a great time out there. I know they love you, so send my love to everybody. So Townsend Coleman sends his love to you. So it was, he's the tick. Townsend is the tick. And every once in a while, I'll just put spoon on his Twitter account. He goes, how are you, big fella? So Michael McConaughey, and Townsend Coleman, and Karen Schoen are the three people that are responsible for my insanity up here. I'm an applause magnet at this point over here.
Yeah. It's great being out here with you. I feel special.
You are special. Sherry, right down front.
Oh, I got this.
Oh, no.
There's a whole order to this.
I always gravitate to the French girls, okay? But bring it on. David, right?
Yeah, it is, yeah. I just wanted to ask, in your career, is there a project that you've actually loved doing? Do you have a favorite project that you've worked on?
Yeah, absolutely. There's no two ways about that. And I'm not just talking about Sorority House Massacre 2, okay? That's sort of a pet favorite of mine. I did a show on NBC called American Dreams. It took place in 1963 in Philadelphia. There was a show on television called American Bandstand that was run by a guy, I don't think it's like Top of the Pops, but they had kids on the show, and they would dance, and they would rate records, and they'd have bands that would come on a lip sync. Well, I played the curmudgeon-y director of Bandstand, the show within the show, where I got to meet and work with Usher and Wayne Brady and Beyonce. I mean, they brought in some heavy hitters. And I did 22 episodes the first season, and I did 32 episodes overall over 3 years, because I wanted to have a TV show. I wanted to be on a television show. But when I was growing up, one of my fantasies was I wanted to be on the Christmas episode of a television show, because that meant I had done at least 4 months' work. And on American Dreams, not only did I get to do the Christmas episode, but they put me into Santa. I'll post a picture of me outside the booth in Santa. So I've got to live, I swear, I've lived more of my dreams because I knew I could make this happen than really a fat boy from New York deserves at this point. But follow them, so I would have to say American Dreams. You can get the first season, I believe, box set. They never released the second or third season, but I was on TV. I improvised at the audition. They wanted, the director literally said to the casting director, who was a friend of mine, I need a fat, funny guy who's good with improv. And she turned to him and said, he'll be here at 10 o'clock Monday morning. So, the script had 3 lines in it. Roll camera 1, cue sound, roll camera 2. Not Shakespeare. And what do you do with that? So he said, would you improvise a scene between the lines? So I pretended there was somebody in the booth with me, an extra, and I started improvising in 1963. I talked about a show that was on Broadway with Bye Bye Birdie. I talked about a Yankee Red Sox game that my wife wanted to take me to. I did a whole elaborate story in this. And I got stopped in the middle of the audition improvising. And the producer said, and you would know these names, he said, I've never heard the words Bill Mungo, Ket, and Paul Lynde in the same sentence. He says, would you shave that beard? Just a goatee. I said, I'd pluck it out if you wanted. And because I did the improv, I booked the show. So, it's a 2-part story, I'll try and keep it short. When I did the first episode, they waited at the end of the day to shoot my stuff. And the executive producer just walked up to me and said, do what you do. And they rolled the camera, And I chatted for 5 minutes, doing that exact same thing. So, I was in episode 1, I wasn't in episode 2, and I was coming back in episode 3 because I was recurring. On episode 2, the night it aired, my brother called me and said, "You were great in the Little Richard episode." And I went, "I'm not in the Little Richard episode." He goes, "You were on television last night." A director had seen the first episode, liked what I had done so much and wanted me in the episode. He took the unused footage that I had recorded and put it in the second episode. And you know what that means, David? Cha-ching. They had to once again pay me for the episode I wasn't in. That show's a very fun, I still speak to 1 or 2 of the cast members. It's a very fun memory for me.
Peter, over there?
Since you've been to the UK a bunch of times, what one place in the UK you'd like to visit but haven't been to yet?
Liverpool and Manchester next April. That's going to happen. I was in London originally in 1987 on my honeymoon, and no, you're not getting those stories. But I keep going to all the places I want to go to. Tick-tock, I'm running out of time. Sherry, so does she have the mic yet over there? Because I know she's got me in a name. Oh, schooled by a French woman. I've waited for this moment my entire life. Vicky, what's your question?
Yes. So when you were auditioning for Transformers Robots in Disguise, what was your initial thoughts when you were told you were going to play a flying robotic shark that did like?
I really thought hopefully the drugs will kick in at some point. I thought, okay. I did, okay, I'll make it up. You know, I just dive in there. And if they tell me you're swimming wrong, well, I'm an actor. I take direction, tell me what to do. I just made up fun. Again, like I said, I've made the gravelly voice, that same voice I do in 100 cartoons, and I just played, Vic. I just trusted that if I made a strong choice, if they didn't like it, they would give me an adjustment, like I do with my actors, and then I would listen to what the adjustment was, and I would then deliver. My job is to deliver what is asked. The actors are the last piece of the puzzle with all this. There's 1,000 other people going to work before it gets to me, especially with that. So I got to figure out, not what they want, but give them something, and then let them tell me what they want. There we go.
Yeah.
True? No, I don't want to speak to you.
Hello.
Hello.
So, we keep talking about your improv skills and your part at Skybite, so I can't believe no one asked you that. Do me a 30-second skit of Skybite in Paris.
Are you gonna withhold this one as well and put it on social media?
I was deciding whether I'm going to include you in this.
My challenge.
This is your challenge.
How did you pronounce?
Well, here I am, swimming the French Channel. God, it's French people, I'm leaving. Je t'aime, chérie, je t'aime.
Where are we next?
Hi. Woman in the hat in the front row with wings on her sweater. Hi.
Hi.
What's your name?
Patricia.
Nice. I couldn't spell that if I would give me $100.
Yeah, it's foreign.
I'm stunned. I had no clue.
You play so many characters. Is there a character that you would want to create yourself, and what would that character be?
Wow. Damn, sister, that's a great question. What character would I want to create? A traveling minstrel who goes from town to town looking not for work but for a family that he could find home. So he performs in every town until he finds that family. But what he doesn't realize is in each town he goes, he's built a family. By the way, I just told you my career.
Okay, do we have any more questions? Somewhere in the vague darkness over there. Excellent.
Hi, Peter.
Hi.
I was just wondering, in regards to your work, I've always wanted to ask you this. Have you ever had work offered to you that you felt, for whatever reason, you felt that you were unable to do? I don't know, made you unhappy in any way, or on a more positive note, have you ever done a piece of voice work that has really moved you? I mean, really moved you?
Good question on two parts. The piece that moved me is I did an episode of a series called Blackjack, an anime series, and it was just such a powerful piece about a man who wanted to save his wife's life, and that moved me to almost tears in that. Something I didn't want to do, but I did, and I became quasi-famous in another realm for, is I did a Nightmare on Elm Street 6, where I literally turned into Freddy Krueger, and played an abusive father in the nightmare, and it was, I'm getting the chills, it was as creepy as it ever could be, and when you do that, you gotta find a dark place of possibility that isn't real in order to deliver that. Rachel Talalay was the director. She's getting a lot of plays. She's directed a lot of Doctor Who's, all the Missy episodes. And she said at the audition, it was a pause, it was dead silence in the room. And she said, that was great. And for the first time in my life, I looked at the director and said, I don't know whether to say thank you or not. You just go to that place, but then you have to let it go. You have to let it go, because it's not real. In the moment, it has to be real. So it takes some time and effort to learn how to decompress from where that is. But that would be it. That would be the dual-sided answer for you. The series called Blackjack. Again, if we're Facebook friends, I'll tell you what episode, but that was the one early on in my voiceover career that I thought, I might be able to do this.
I'm surprised you didn't mention the German beer advert that you dressed in drag.
In 1986, I did a national commercial for Miller Lite Beer, and we were the East German Women's Olympic swim team. I'm a fetching blonde. I don't know if you know this, by the way. And don't do this now, but do it later. If you Google Helga Piscopo, P-I-S-C-O-P-O, as in Joe Piscopo, you can actually watch the 30 seconds. Don't do it now, Vicky. I told you not to do it now. You can actually watch the commercial. And there's nothing more attractive than a large 300-pound man in drag who knows he's pretty.
Okay, we've got about 3 minutes left, and knowing how long you talk, we've probably got time for one more question.
Yes, one more?
Vegan. What's the hardest role you've ever had to do in your entire career?
That one I just spoke about. To play, you know me, I am about the most loving person you've met. And to be able to play that and to verbally come on to the daughter in a scene, that was the most difficult. I haven't watched it since the first time I saw it on film, because I don't like what it looks like. But that was very difficult. Anything that involves hurting another person, to me, is aberrant in my own life.
Okay, and what's the hardest voice?
Is he going to follow up question and everything?
He's talking about your voice acting.
There's no hard voices. Either you can do it or you can't. And if you can't do it, you work to the point where you can do it. So you keep practicing until you're a master of it. And so every voice is hard when you don't know how to do it. But once you know how to do it, it becomes natural.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay.
Did you have that final question?
I do, but I want to ask you something first. You've done a lot of conventions, right?
A handful.
A handful. Could you tell us something that you've never told any convention before?
I'm scared most of the time I walk on stage.
Aww.
Don't all me. But the minute I walk on that stage, oh, I ain't scared anymore. It's that moment before where you think, Are they going to like me? Have I done this too much? Do I really want to do this? We used to call it the milk and cookie syndrome. In that one moment, you want to be home, having milk and cookies in front of a fire with a blanket, watching your favorite television show. And then they say, ladies and gentlemen, and it's showtime. And that's what you learn over these years. It's showtime. So there's no, suck it up, buttercup, as they like to say in New York. You get on that stage and you give everything you have. And I like to think that I have done that for 42 years.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this puppy up. Okay. Because there's some ice cream to be had in a real short while.
Okay, so what we're doing with all of our very special guests is at the end of their panels, we're doing 10 questions from inside the actor studio. Ooh.
I always want to be on that show.
Well, they are very, very quick-fire questions, and they are one-word or one-sentence answers.
Yeah, good luck.
So, as quickly as you can, what's your favourite word?
Laughter.
What's your least favourite word?
Racism.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally? One word.
Everything.
What turns you off?
You.
Peter, we've spent together.
Oh, don't suck up there.
What's your favourite PG curse word?
Is there one? Children, hold your ears. Twat waffle. My New York friends love that word when I use it.
Right. What sound or noise do you love?
Laughter.
What sound or noise do you hate?
Hatred.
Oh. What profession, other than your own, would you like to attempt?
Orchestra conductor.
Is that just because you get to wave your arms around?
You're very accurate.
I've spent a week with you.
Yeah.
What profession would you not like to do? Quick fire.
Coroner.
Oh, that's depressing.
You're the one asking the questions, all right?
If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Gotcha!